Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be kind of doing a recap of my deer season. So, yeah, so basically I know I didn't put out a lot of videos. I normally don't put out many, but I was hoping to put out more. That's not for a lack of trying. Start out, did the early season bow hunt, y'all saw that. Did the muzzleloader hunt, killed a doe, y'all saw that. But then I moved, and I realized I'm not going to be able to go and hunt on my family's land as much as I usually do. So I decided that I was going to, try to hunt public land this year. Well, good news is there's public land close to my house. Bad news is the only public land close to my house is archery only all year long. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do archery all year long. So I started out before season even started in August. I went out and started scouting at this piece of public property. It's several thousand acres, some beautiful woods, a lot of oak hardwoods. I found a lot of old deer stands, which was kind of cool. I found a little bit of deer sign, but I really wasn't seeing much, so I decided to put out a bunch of cameras. And at first, did not see anything, and then slowly, I'll put up some videos. I started to see deer. So yeah, I started to see deer. At first, little bucks, a lot of does, but then I found this scrape way back, like a mile and a half off the road, and I put a camera on it because I was like, you know what, why not? It was the first scrape I'd found out there, and man, did the bucks start showing up. I had a big 10-point showing up. I had several different 8-points showing up, and it was awesome. The only problem, I did not at the time have a tree saddle or a good stand that I could carry that far. I've got a climbing stand, but it makes so much racket moving it that I didn't really want to carry it that far. So I set up a ground blind, and well, at first, before I even set up the ground blind, I just found a good spot, set up in the trees, on the ground, had some bushes in front of me, and I'll go ahead and roll that clip right now.
Meh. Meh.
So yeah, I had really close encounters with some pigs, with some does. Never could get a shot at anything. I'd made up my mind that this was going to be my first year hunting public land, so my standards were going to be low. If I got a shot at a doe, I was going to take a shot at a doe. So starting out, I really only filmed with my GoPro just because I was walking so far. I didn't feel like lugging all my camera gear in. And so most of the footage that you see is not going to be the best, but it's what I could get. Yeah, saw some does multiple times. And then came the crazy day. So it was November the 10th. At this point, I had not seen any bucks. I had pictures of bucks, but I hadn't seen them in person. I still did not have a good tree stand. So I started out, I had thrown up some burlap around some trees and just made me a little ground blind. I started out there, and I hunted there for the first hour or so. But then I just got this feeling that maybe I needed to move spots. I wasn't real confident in the area I was at. So I got up, moved. I found this spot where there was a holly tree right next to a red oak. I could set up behind the red oak and kind of hide myself like that. And then holly tree would provide me some extra cover.
Alright guys, we just got set up at our new spot. I'll show y'all what we're working with. I'm situated where I can really see down through the woods pretty good. So if there's any bugs cruising, I'll be able to see them and hopefully call them into range. Behind me there's a pine thicket. My only concern about this spot is the deer might come out of the pine thicket. see y'all down through the woods. I got this big old red oak tree that I'm kind of tucked behind, so hopefully the thought is if a deer's walking this way, they get behind this tree, I can draw back so that when they get over here I can shoot. But yeah, right over there is where I was like when I had the doe run right past me with a buck chasing her. And I've got my bow propped up to kind of give me just a little bit of cover too to break up my outline. It's 8:30, so we've got a long sit ahead of us. I've probably got 8 hours left to sit. Hopefully an old big buck decides to come cruising through here. We shall see. No way that just worked. Y'all, I cannot believe that just happened. Oh, here comes another deer. I stood up to stretch and I heard a deer coming, and it was a spike. And bro walked within 5 yards of me. I was just standing there completely still. But let me see what this deer is real quick. It's a doe. We're all good. Alright guys, so basically what just happened was I just had a buck. If he had proud tines, he was a 7 point. If he didn't, he was a huge 5 point. But I mean, he had 15-inch inside spread easy. I mean, long tines. He stepped out of the pine thicket to my right at 50 yards, and he made around. And the closest he got was 40, and I was grunting, and he was acting like he wasn't even hearing it. And finally, he just eased on out of there and kept cutting out across the oak flat. But that's the first shooter buck I've seen in here all year, and I've So I'm optimistic. Another thing that's really good is he did not have a clue I was here. Um, so I think my little blind setup's working, but hopefully either he comes back or I can catch him this evening when he's coming back through, or another big buck comes through. We shall see. Oh my goodness, he's right there. He's right there, guys. He's freaking huge. Huge 4-point thing. Huge. Oh my goodness. That was the giant 4-point, which I think he might have had a proud time. If he did, he was getting shot at. He was at 40 yards. I was trying to get him to come in, and he was responding to that grunt call, but then he just that doe started blowing at me and he took off with her. So that's just how it goes sometimes.
That day, I saw 9 different bucks. I saw a giant. I mean, I don't know what he was. I think I got a little bit of footage of him. I had a spike walk within 5 yards of me. I saw the biggest 4 point I've ever seen in my life. There were deer everywhere, but they were all just out of range. So I figured out that they were walking this trail coming out of the pines that were behind me down into the big oak bottom to feed. And they were walking this trail and they were walking right past this downed oak tree every single time. Don't know why. It's wide open. They could have walked anywhere, but that's where every single one of these bucks was walking. Um, and so I was just bummed. So as I was walking out, though, I heard a commotion in front of me, and all of a sudden, a bunch of pigs were right on top of me. There were 20 pigs, all within 20 yards. I was just standing completely still. It done got dark at this point, and they were just feeding around, rooting around, had no clue I was there. And I was able to knock an arrow and get drawn back and actually shoot one of them. And give me 1 second. I actually, so I killed this one pig. I shot this pig. I'll throw some footage up. Guys, I was walking out and I had a group of like 20 pigs walk up. Shot this dude at like 5 yards, hit him a little back. So I had to, finish him off. He was about 60 pounds, and I actually got the skull, and you can see the broadhead still sticking out of the skull. So that was really cool. So I guess that was technically my first public land kill. Um, but I got home and I told my wife about what happened, how I couldn't get on these deer. They were just too far away, all this. And I made the comment, I was like, hey, if I had a tree saddle, I think I could kill one of these deer. And little did I know, she had actually just ordered me a tree saddle. So I got the tree saddle in, super thankful that she bought that for me, got the steps in, got the platform, got all that. And I started hunting that spot hard. And so I had, that was where I went every time. It was right at a mile from the parking area. Had zero pressure other than me. So I set up in this tree 20 yards from that down tree I was talking about where those deer kept walking by. And first morning, I had 3 doe come out, and it was like perfect. They walked right down, and they walked right in front of me, right by that down tree. And it was at like 6:45 in the morning, and I made a decision that I now regret. They had no clue I was there. I said, you know what? It's this early. Those bucks the week before had just been chasing does like crazy. I said, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to shoot. I'm going to wait and see if a buck follows them. And they fed on out and left. Well, about 3 hours later, so pushing 10 o'clock, a buck did come in, but there's a 3 point rule in the county I'm hunting. Buck's got to have 3 on one side, and this was a 4 point, and he had brow tines that were about that long. So he probably would have been legal, but I didn't want to take the risk, shoot him, and then a game warden be sitting at the parking lot waiting on me, and him say, no, that's not a legal deer. So I let him walk. I kept hunting that spot, had another buck a different morning come in, and he came in from behind me. I heard him walking, and I'll throw the footage up now. He came in, walked right under me. I got all excited, but again, not a legal deer. So that's kind of a pattern that I experienced. I saw lots of spikes, lots of little 3 points and 4 points. I had 3 more encounters with that big 4 point. I mean, that deer, probably 6 years old. I don't think I ever got footage of him, but he is a mature deer, probably the most mature deer on that piece of public, and I just could not find an extra point to make him legal. So then comes December the 6th. So that was a Saturday. I hunted all morning. I had one doe walk through at like 80 yards. I had a big pig walk through at like 80 yards and couldn't get a shot at either of them. My comfortable range is 30. I'm working on that. So at about noon, I decided to get down. I hadn't been seeing any deer, any bucks in this area that I was hunting. Um, I probably hunted it too hard and, kind of spooked them or bumped them out of that area. So I decided I was going to get down and head about another quarter mile back into this public land and set up in a new location. I had scouted way back in the season, didn't have any buck sign, but there were tons of acorns. And basically, you had the creek, you had a thicket on one side, a thicket on the other side, and this little ditch. And I walked in there, and first thing I saw was a big holly tree with a big old scrape. I was like, okay, here we're talking. It was fresh. Then I saw deer droppings everywhere. And then I saw a ton of fresh acorns still on the ground. And this is in December, mind you. So I'm looking around, and none of the trees have any good cover. I mean, they're all just willow oaks and water oaks, telephone poles up until about 30 feet. And so I found the one tree that had a little bit of cover, got set up at like 12:45. Um, about 1:30, somewhere in there, I had a group of does travel along the edge of the creek about 80 yards away. And then I sat there and they never came in. And right before dark, I heard something walking. Well, first I heard the squirrels start cutting up. And I heard something walking to my right. And I will just go ahead and roll the footage from there. So, yeah, um, that was my first opportunity at a legal buck in range out of my tree saddle, and I blew it. Um, Deer was coming in. He was making a beeline for that scrape. The only problem, that scrape was 35 yards from where I was set up. My comfortable range is 30. I did not want to risk taking a sketchy shot on this deer. So he walked. I thought he was behind a tree because I'm kind of hiding behind this tree that I'm leaning away from. And so I pick up my bow. Well, apparently he pinned me when I did that. I tried to draw back on him. He saw me move and he turned and took off. But as you saw, I grunted him and he came back in, but he would never get close enough. And he just kind of skirted the edge and walked away. And then it got dark on me. And that was the last opportunity I had at a deer all season. I kept hunting hard. I had some more big bucks in the coming days. Like I think like a week later, chasing does, but they were too far. Um, then the acorns all rotted. The rut ended. The bucks grouped back up with each other, and that was it. I started hunting private land, never had an opportunity. So, first season, if you're just looking at harvesting a deer, it was not successful. But to me, it was successful because I learned a lot about bow hunting. I learned a lot about public land hunting. I learned a lot about woodsmanship and just scouting in general. Um, so there were just a few main things that I learned. So first, put in the work to scout. I had hunted public land a few times before, and all I did was just find a parking spot, look on Onyx for 10 minutes, find a spot, find a parking spot, walk through the woods 200 yards and set up, and I never had any success. This year, I put in a lot of miles hiking and looking for deer sign, and I found a lot of deer sign, and where there was deer sign, I saw the deer. So, to me, it was just successful being able to actually see deer. Second thing, though, was patience. I hunted from September 28th to middle of January. So October, November, December, January, like 4 months, and did not get a shot at a deer. And that's just part of it. That's part of public land. You watch like the public land guys, you see hunting publics, Seek One, even when they do hunting stuff on public land, and they're all you see is all the deer they see, all the deer that they just had to pass, and what you don't see are the days and days and days of work that goes into that, and the days and days of not seeing nothing that comes as a part of public land hunting. And so, definitely learned patience, but also learned to have realistic expectations. At the beginning of the year, I said I was going to shoot a doe because I didn't have any pictures of bucks. Then I got pictures of 5 different bucks, and I quickly was like, oh, you know what? Does are out the window. I'm hunting these big bucks. And I had opportunities at does multiple times, and I decided to pass on them. And looking back, should not have done that. But hindsight's 2020, and you live and you learn. So, yeah, patience, put in the work, and have realistic expectations. The more I hunt, the higher my expectations or my standards are going to get. You can't kill 180-inch mature bucks your first year. You have no experience. So that's what I'm learning. But yeah, I'm going to hopefully get back at it next year. If y'all stuck to it this long, thank you so much for watching. If you would please like and subscribe if you like this content. Fishing season's right around the corner. I actually just went fishing the other day. Didn't catch nothing, but the bite ought to start firing up here shortly, so should be on the lookout for some fishing videos. But other than that, I will see y'all next time.